Welcome to Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine. I'm your host, Jill Jardine, Master's in Counseling Psychology, longtime professional astrologer, psychic healer, and yogi. In this episode, I'm going to discuss the upcoming astrological and energetic events during March to May 2023 and how they will affect us and the cryptocurrency trajectories. So stay tuned. Welcome to the episode on the cosmic waves and cryptocurrency currents during March through May 2023. The crypto market is on the move, and you'll want to hear what astrological indicators are driving the markets. I'll discuss Bitcoin, Shiba, and Ethereum and how their astrological charts are being activated by the current crypto boom. Go back and listen to my recent episode on the Astrology of March 2023, Saturn transiting in Pisces, and Pluto going into Aquarius, as these will all affect the crypto markets in March 2023. Cryptocurrency markets will pick up in March 2023, thanks to the boost from the Aries planets and the planetary paradigm changes as Saturn seeps into Pisces on March 7th, the same day as the Virgo Full Moon. And the week of March 20th will be gangbusters with the Aries influx of planets, including the Aries New Moon on March 21st, followed by Pluto pulsing forward into Aquarius on March 23rd. Hang on to your hats. Crypto is in for a wild ride. It will blast forth until it is halted by Eclipse season and Mercury Retrograde, starting on April 20th and 21st, respectively. Make the most of the roller coaster ride up before it descends back down during the eclipses of late April and early May 2023. So at the beginning of March, we start off, and crypto is starting to creep up. As it starts moving up, March should gain some speed. We have that very pivotal date, March 7th, when Saturn shifts into Pisces. It's also the full moon with the sun in Pisces, moon in Virgo. So that should bring some awarenesses. There may be some announcements around that time regarding crypto. There'll be a lot of infusion of energy coming in. And from that point forward, we'll see crypto markets starting to take off. As we get into the third week of March, that is when things are really going to pick up. We have the equinox coming in on the 20th when the sun goes into Aries. Aries is always a good sign for crypto. It's a new beginning. And so the recovery after FTX will be in full cycle here. On the 21st, it's an Aries New Moon. Very auspicious. We also will have Jupiter in Aries for most of all of March and most of April. So the combination of the sun, the moon, Mercury, and Jupiter in Aries is going to blast things forward, that third week in March being pivotal. I predict that it will continue until we get in front of the eclipses. So the first eclipse window comes in April 20th, and that is going to be an Aries eclipse. It's going to be a new moon in Aries at the very last degrees of the sign Aries. That's on April 20th. However, I believe that crypto will come to a halt about 10 days before that, around the 10th, 8th to 10th of April, as far as those people who are interested in taking out gains. Now, again, remember, I'm an astrologer. I am not a financial advisor. But the astrology patterns in the past have shown us that crypto can respond to it. So let me unpack this again. Late March, starting on the 21st, through the April full moon on the 7th of April should be a wild ride, those couple weeks. And then it will start to slow down a little bit from the 8th of April onward. So there's a nice 6 weeks of making hay through the whole month of March until about the 10th of April. So the thing to be aware of going forward as we get into April, the last couple weeks from April 20th on, we're going to have that eclipse. Again, it's in late degrees Aries, so it slows down that fast trajectory. And the next day or a few hours later, the sun actually goes into Taurus. So we're back into Taurus eclipse energy, even though this one is right on the cusp. Last degree of Aries, early Taurus. And Mercury will be going retrograde as well. Mercury's retrograde for 3 weeks, and that takes us through the second big eclipse, which is a full-on Taurus eclipse, May 5th, 2023, Cinco de Mayo eclipse with the sun in Taurus and the moon in Scorpio. Historically, the buck stops here eclipse financially, and its counterpart, which occurs when the sun is in Scorpio and the moon is in Taurus in October or November. This year it will be in October. So the buck stops here, which will slow down the progress that the crypto trajectories have made through mid-April. And so they won't be picking up again. May, it will still be a little bit slow, and it may not be until the summer, but that's another podcast. Stay tuned when I review charts of 3 cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Shiba. Welcome back. Let's talk about the Bitcoin chart. So, with many planets going through Aries during the month of March, Bitcoin's natal moon is in the sign Aries in its 9th house of public exposure. So, what's going to happen here is in late February, we've got Venus coming over the moon of the Bitcoin chart. Jupiter has passed over it, and we will be having the sun come over it as well in late March, just around that week that I talked about, the week of March 20th. Around the 26th, 27th of March, we're going to have a sun-moon conjunction in the Bitcoin chart, which should pick it up. Also, another interesting phenomenon with the Bitcoin chart, Venus, which is a planet that indicates resources and money, in Bitcoin, is in Pisces, 1st degree. 7th of March, Saturn will come right on that. So some people might think that is a block, but I'm seeing that as a new beginning. Saturn starting a new cycle, and it's conjuncting the Venus in the Bitcoin chart, giving it a new start. The other interesting thing, too, is that Pluto has been in Capricorn and sitting on the other indicator of prosperity, which is the Jupiter in Bitcoin chart, located at 29 degrees Capricorn. Pluto has been sitting at that degree at the end of February until the 23rd of March, actually. So this is transformation. This is transformation of abundance. And Pluto has been going back and forth over that Bitcoin Jupiter in 2022 and early 2023. It will come back again, too, in the summer when it retrogrades back into Capricorn. But this is starting up a new cycle for Bitcoin, a new abundant cycle. And going into March, we're going to start seeing the fruit of that. The other interesting thing about the movement of the planet Pluto in the Bitcoin chart, not only is it conjuncting the natal Jupiter in Capricorn, having a rebirth of sorts after the death. After the death and the transformation, Pluto is now rebirthing Jupiter in the Bitcoin chart. It's going to be going forward into the sign Aquarius. Go back and listen to my podcast on Pluto transiting Aquarius, because as it goes into Aquarius, it's going to get close to the Mercury in Aquarius in the Bitcoin chart. So there's going to be some news coming out in April, May, June regarding the Bitcoin situation, and where they may have some expansion. There'll be a lot more news of crypto in general, but certainly through the Bitcoin chart, we see a lot of news coming forth in the spring of 2023 in the Northern Hemisphere. So the Pluto transits of Bitcoin's chart is creating a rebirthing situation as we come forward into the second quarter of 2023. Saturn and Venus starting in March. Saturn conjunct Venus, that's going to be an interesting one to watch, as there could be some sort of new foundation coming down. Stay tuned, and I'll talk about the Ethereum chart when we get back. Welcome back. I'm looking at the chart of Ethereum, the astrological chart, and the transits happening to the Ethereum chart. The big news is that Pluto has finished a year and a half conjuncting the natal moon of Ethereum in Capricorn, which again, as I mentioned with Bitcoin and Pluto conjuncting its Jupiter, Ethereum is undergoing a transformation and has been. And now that Pluto is done conjuncting the moon of Ethereum, we're going to see some growth. We're going to see the rebirth. We're going to see the new growth. And this is all happening in the second house of Ethereum birth chart. Then as we move to the third house, there's a lot of action going on in that third house of communication for Ethereum here in March. We've got Mercury, planet of communication, and Saturn, and the Sun, Neptune, Venus, Jupiter, and Chiron, wounded healer teacher. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 archetypes going through Ethereum's third house of communication. You better believe there's going to be some news coming out about crypto and Ethereum and a forward trajectory and how the markets are getting activated. There's also a preponderance of Aries planets with Venus and Jupiter and Chiron in Aries in the third house of Ethereum, which is setting off a nice aspect to the Leo planets in the Ethereum chart. Ethereum is a Leo sign. Leo Sun, Leo Mercury, and Leo Jupiter, all being triggered in the next weeks of March and April by what we call trine, which are lucky transits. In fact, at the time of this recording, at the end of February, early March, we've got a Venus trine the natal sun of Ethereum in the house of monies from unexpected means, and Jupiter is trining the Mercury of Ethereum in Leo, and we're going to see Venus trine Jupiter mid-March. We're going to see Jupiter trining the Jupiter in the Ethereum chart as we get into April and early May. So it will start to open up, and there will be a lot of communication or information coming out in the mainstream. Now, there's a kind of exciting transit when Jupiter conjuncts Uranus in the Ethereum chart in Aries. And so that should be some form of surprise that's due to come through in late April and early May. Look for a surprise from Ethereum. When we come back, I'll talk about the Shiba chart. Let's talk about Shiba, the coin Shiba. It is about to make a new debut in March 2023. And like Ethereum and Bitcoin, Shiba too had one of their personal planets be aspected by a Pluto conjunction. And in Shiba's case, Pluto just spent the last year, 2022, early 2023, going back and forth over Shiba's Saturn in Capricorn, which would have been removing some obstacles, but also be bringing up some issues. So Pluto is complete with the Saturn conjunction in the Shiba chart, Pluto conjuncting Saturn in Capricorn. And isn't this interesting? All three of these players have recently finished a Pluto conjunct a personal planet, Jupiter and the moon. Jupiter with Bitcoin and the moon with Ethereum and Saturn with Shiba. So they're ready to make their debuts. And Shiba has some other interesting astrological aspects happening right now. So the Shiba 10th house is loaded right now with transiting planets, activating the natal Mars and the natal Uranus that are there. Shiba has Mars in Aries and Uranus in Taurus in the 10th. And so in the beginning of March, we're going to see Venus come over the natal Mars in Shiba's natal chart. We're going to have Jupiter come over that natal Mars as we get to the end of March. We're also having 1, 2, 3, 4 planets, 5 planets transiting that 10th house of public life for Shiba. Shiba will probably announce some new development that people have been waiting for. I remember back in 2021, I always saw that when the timing was right, Shiba would jump ahead with a new development. The other piece about this is that the Venus in Gemini and the North Node in Gemini of the Shiba chart are being activated in March and April as well. So there's going to be some announcements. There's a lot of communication. There's some expansion. But because it's more Aries based, I see it happening pretty fast. So the caveat with the Shiba rise in the months of March and April, it may take off like a rocket due to an announcement, but it may not be sustained, at least not during the eclipse season with April 20th solar eclipse and May 5th lunar. I think it will take a hit, but I do see that Shiba may rally in the summer as well. So this is going to be very interesting to watch the Shiba rocket take off. March, April, then it may, I wouldn't say crash, but it's going to stop in its tracks until there is more fuel to feed it in the summer of 2023. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the cryptocurrency trajectories of March, April, and May 2023. Make sure you subscribe, download, share, and give us a 5-star review. This is Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine, sending healing cryptocurrency through the quantum field.